Good evening from Madison, Illinois, and welcome to round 3 of season 8 of the BSR Grid Network Truck Series, live and exclusive on JCTV for the Wheel 200. Opened as an oval in 1997, this mile-and-a-quarter track just outside of St. Louis, Missouri is quite the interesting one. Turns 1 and 2, very tight in radius, but with 11 degrees of banking. 3 and 4, a lot wider, but a lot flatter, 9 degrees only to work with, and a very tricky curb on the inside of both corners that you have to be careful to not throw yourself onto. This track, of course, hosts all sorts of racing, my beloved Indy cars, as well as all manner of NASCAR series, and tonight, the Grid Network trucks set sail for round 3 of the season. And I know what you're thinking. What the hell happened to the first 2 rounds? I don't remember what happened. Well, here's the points that we're going to bring up. It was 2 wins, 1 for Alex Kerfen, who missed the second race at, I believe it was Kentucky, but is back for round number 3. I will double check that track while we talk here. And of course, as we were there over at Kentucky, Michael Kruger took home a dramatic race win, well deserved, and very much a fan favorite win for the number 42 that actually vaults him into the championship lead by 8 points over Rivers Jones. And it looks like he is looking to continue that form, because as we get rid of those points and look back towards today, number 42 sits at the very top of the timesheet with a 34.331. Walls just 2/3 of a tenth of a second behind. Why did I say it like that? 2/15 of a second if we want, or 1/15 over fractions like that. Monstrano in third. In case you've not noticed, I have the booth to myself and I'm already going a little bit crazy. Just flew over from the forests of Belgium, running the Spa 24. Anyone in this race who either has just finished up, congratulations, just still running and taking this as a pit stop along the way. Good luck in the rest of the action. We've got just 2 minutes left in practice here at Gateway. And let's ride on board for a little bit with Kruger just to see what this looks like. Is it? Hang on. There we go. 4 times the charm. That's the camera I was looking for. And you can see quite heavy banking in 1 and 2. You sort of want to sit that second groove, actually. That low line, not particularly friendly. And then turns 3 and 4. Lots of lanes available. You really just want to let it settle in. And I think in the trucks, yeah, the low line is going to be ideal. But again, if you get onto that curve, it can really unsettle the car, especially that little bit as it flattens out for the access road. I believe if the pace car wants to bail out of giving the green flag signal. I'm not entirely sure here. 1 minute left to go in tonight's session. I am very excited to see what these drivers can do in their 160 laps of racing. 200 miles as usual, but going to be a bit of an endurance race with the reduced speeds of a track like this. Drivers really going to have to make their machinery last. It's going to be up to them to determine whether they want to get this one over with quickly or whether we are in for the long haul. Entry, of course, very tricky here. We're expecting 2 pit stops with the stage break not giving drivers a free run down pit lane. See the 89 try and make the move, but get walled out. The 25 going through the grass. That's Lana Chicano and Jamie Wright, respectively. Does Michael Kruger get it stopped nice and smooth? Yes. Who was that behind? I dread to think. Practice wrapping up. We head into qualifying up next. We're riding on board here with Walls, and I've picked up the vertical ticker here. Not necessarily my usual preference, but an update to these trucks recently. The dashboards have gone digital, and I'm not a huge fan of it, but I thought we'll have a look at it and see what these drivers are sort of getting a view of. Now you can see a lot of displays right in the very bottom, and nice and big that rev counter with a couple of dashes to let you know when to shift, especially the pit speed as well. As all of these digital advancements, still not putting a pit limiter in them. That wouldn't be the NASCAR way. Walls is fastest currently with 34.617, but we saw some much faster times earlier on in practice. Of course, one big factor in that is going to be that the track is awfully hot. Alex Kerfen goes faster now with a 34.5. What can Walls do in response to find a faster lap 2? No, it's going to be a little bit slower. And I think that is where track temp is going to be a huge factor. 126 Fahrenheit. I was thinking of getting a fuel number for everyone in case we get a long green flag run, but honestly, I think we're more tyre limited. I don't think we're going to see drivers completely empty the tank. Philip Scott on lap number 2, see what he can do. 2.5 minutes left in our qualifying session. And Cruder on lap 2 does go fastest by a full 1/10 of a second. I got fated thinking that maybe lap 1 was the way to go, and then Michael Cruder shows his worth, and Philip Scott does just the same as well. Jumps up to 4th fastest. A few more drivers on the way. Bailey Thompson. This does not seem like a competitive lap. Nope, that's qualifying over for the number 27. So we'll follow with Justin Rourke just coming to complete a lap now. Is it an improvement? It is. It's good enough for outside pole right now. Great lap from Justin Rourke. Maybe take advantage of what seems like a little bit of cloud cover that could end up paying off. Let's see if Justin Durand, who I think is on a warm-up lap, is taking this very carefully. Now I think he might be going for the slowest lap award here, because that wasn't strongest. And it doesn't really look like much of a push either. David Durand in 15th currently, setting a second lap. So this doesn't sound right with that engine, to be completely honest. A little bit confusing. But we'll see what Durand can do. And I think that was just the iRacing's audio engineer, which he was flying on that lap, got 5th fastest. I really did not think that was going to happen, but great work, and that is going to be the end of qualifying. So we have a little bit of time to rest, grab some snaps, and whatever else you might need before we get going with our pace lap for tonight. But it is going to be Michael Cruder picking up where he left off 3 weeks ago, sitting on the pole position for tonight's race. It looks like our field is now getting ready to go racing here in Gateway. And it is Michael Kruger, as we said, on the pole position with Justin Raw on the outside. Great lap from the number 42 to get that position. Alex Kerfen and Tristan Maher will line up on row number 2 with Justin Durand and Philip Scott lined up right behind. Michael Walls and Jamie Wright will make up row number 4 with Alon Chicano and Zach Probst, row 5 on the grid. William Kemp and Randy Payne will be your 6th row for tonight's action, with Cody Dozer and David Durand starting 13th and 14th. Bailey Thompson and Cody McCorkle will line up on row number 8, with Fidel Fabian and Levi Poland making up row 9. Then rounding out your top 20, it'll be Paul Zarthmany and Jacob Locklear. And then behind them, get to the rest of the field, Troy Sand, Aaron Vondruska, Nick Donati, and Kyla Scott. Finally, Stephen Thornton rounding out the 25-car field, bringing it back for race number 3 tonight. We get ready for the racing action here. Again, 160 laps on offer, 200 miles. A stage points will be awarded at lap number 40, but we will keep it rolling. And hopefully we can get some nice long green flag runs and see just how much these drivers are going to suffer on those tyres. The pace car will pull off. That's what that piece of asphalt is used for. Michael Kruger, under the command of Barney the Flagman here, we head into the restart zone. And we are underway here for the Wheel 200 at Gateway. Oh, not a great run through turn number 1 there for Kruger. Kerfen nearly getting into the back of that truck, but able to fight it off turn number 2. I think Justin Raw doesn't have it done. They're going to slot into single file here. Good move from Raw on the outside. I think that might inform what we see on any future choosers throughout the rest of this race. Kruger, of course, still settling in, slotted into 2nd place. A little bit more fighting behind. Got Walls side by side with Durand here, fighting through a very patriotic goat racing truck there. Of course, we were off for the 4th of July, and Walls making sure that he gets to use that truck regardless. It's very much an early rhythm here. No drivers up more or down more than 2 positions from where they lined up under green. Jamie Wright taking some big moves on the inside, but might get pinched down here. Chicano tries to sweep around the outside then, and maybe go 3 wide with Justin Durand behind. I think Durand might be either struggling for race pace or saving some tyre for later in the run. But Jamie Wright not willing to be patient there. Going to push the issue early. Raw and Kruger also racing very closely at the front, but I think that Kruger's happy to sit in behind here. Picked up the fastest lap on lap number 2. I think if those 2 can break away, work a little tyre save behind while you're at it, you are going to be in a very good position indeed. The goat racing truck of Fidel Fabian. Trying to fight. And it's Cody Dozer who's down 3 again. A bit of a slide there from Cody in that Garage 61 truck. Maybe burning off those rears a little bit too early here. It'd be interesting to see whether the rears or the fronts end up taking the biggest hit. But again, with the temps in the 120s, that is getting towards medium rare. It's going to be very, very tricky indeed to keep the truck underneath you for any period of time. Jamie Wright just seems to be the centre of everything right now. Maybe has burnt up stuff a little bit with Chicano, now under pressure from Zach Probst in the number 62. And you see Chicano's not happy with one, is going to try and get a second done here around Justin Durand. And of course, as Chicano keeps getting some moves done, here's a great opportunity to look at that number 25 scheme that matches our graphics quite nicely, don't you think? Very good colour matching there for Alonso. It has been a very sensible start to this race, it has to be said. Close to 10 laps on the books. Nothing of too much note happening. Again, biggest movers, Durand is down 3 in that number 5. Portal, Chicano up 2. All these drivers in for the long haul, they know that no move you make right now will matter if you expend the entire Goodyear tyre on it. And that's why even at the front of the field, that breakaway isn't quite forming between Broughton and Truder and the rest of the field. There's a little bit of a gap between Kerfen and Maher, but they're still well within striking distance because you just want to try and walk away from this field. If you try and run, you're doing a trip. And this fall off was remarkable. We are already nearly a second off the fastest laps that were set at the opening of the race. If you want to use the tyres as efficiently as possible, as Chicano making sure to get even more screen time ahead of that GOAT Racing truck. So we're actually side by side for the race lead. Let's keep an eye on this. Kruger's going for the move on the inside into turn number 3. Chicano is making those spots up, but has some work to do now to close up the gap to Philip Scott. But Michael Truder showing raw the outside. And now into turns 1 and 2, he's got the nose ahead. He's going to lead the lap. And the question is just, can he complete the move here? Or does that second lane prove to be plenty strong to give the slingshot to Justin Raw on the way out of the corner? I think the slingshots worked pretty well. It's going to be nose ahead for Raw now into turn number 3. You see the side draft there. That's a bit more than a side draft. That's a bit of a nudge. And Truder going to slide up the racetrack. Raw going to go for the crossover. Gets back to the inside. I think he's going to give the door right back. And this time, it'll be the number 76 that leads at the line. Oh, and Raw disappearing from our plane of existence right now. I hope he comes back. But this is a long, extended latency issue. Gotta be aware of that connection flag and, of course, reappearing inside someone's truck. I think we might have lost Justin Raw here. And what a shame that is for the outside pole sitter, who was running so well, leading laps up until moments ago, in a great fight with Michael Kruger, it looks like it might be a mechanical for the number 76. He's going to go. I feel like down could be day done for the number 76. That is a real shame to see. Into this battle for what is currently 6th place. Chicano starting to break away from this group. And of course, it's Jamie Wright still pushing with Randy Payne behind, up 3 positions, but making those moves very efficiently. I'd say Wright's been in the action a lot, but hasn't really been that effective with them, considering that he smacked band where he started this race in 8th position. In fact, he's barely strayed from that position. He's fallen down a spot, got it back. See how the rest of this one goes. Yeah, at this point, I think to confirm that Justin Raw is going to have some hardware issues, going to be down on pit lane. Hopefully to get back in and, I mean, pick up some pieces, but that is a heartbreaker for Justin Raw, who was, at this point of the season, looking pretty strong. Had a good result already over at Kentucky to bounce back from a heartbreak at Daytona, but gonna need another miracle heading further into the season, it looks like. So we are past the 10% point. You see Jamie Wright already starting to get a little bit uncomfortable, and who's that a little bit further back? I think that's Zach Probst with an even bigger moment off turn 2. And I think that might answer the question. I think the rears could be going before the fronts here. And Probst, in fact, is going to peel it down pit lane. Could be a little bit of a starting part here. Might be carrying some damage on that truck external to what we can see. I think Randy Payne is really the man to watch right now, doing some great work cutting through the field. I say cutting through the field, up 3 positions. You got Durand and McCorkle behind, up 3, up 4 respectively. It looks like Justin Raw is back out on the racetrack right now, but is 4 laps down. I think is set to go a 5th. So just going to take this opportunity to make sure that all the paints are up to date. Make sure I've got everything loaded up. Just in, I assume we're taking a set of tyres, maybe automatically in that stop. I'm going to try and use that to cut through the field. But meanwhile, Kerfen and Maher have caught back up to Kruger. That little bit of side-by-side fighting, I think, has done a little bit of damage to the tyres, and he's under a little bit of pressure right now. Let's see if the move can be done for Alex Kerfen, starting in the 3rd position, looking to try and get into the pole. Oh. You know what I meant. Side by side a bit further down the order, Cody McCorkle trying to get through the field. But David Durand also doing the same in that Valvoline machine. Going to be up 5 positions for Cody McCorkle. He really just walls out Durand, but off the corner it starts to come back to you. We saw that in that fight that Rourke was having. And it looks like David Durand might be able to hold on for now. These two have been both going the right way in the field. They need to try and get this organized and get one of them in front of the other so that they continue that charge. As Durand nearly gets fed out into the wall there. Remember, we are more than halfway in this opening stage here. No caution going to come out at the end of lap number 40, but vital championship points will be applied all the same. Again, Randy Payne has worked his way into that top 10. Cody McCorkle just one position away from doing the same. Biggest gainer is McCorkle, up 5 spots, and then, of course, we're looking at Alonso Carno up 4, up into the 5th position. Oh, and a big moment for Jamie Wright. Was that contact with the wall? Or just getting the truck a little bit loose, having to gather it back up? Again, with these conditions, you're going to be so on edge. Track temp has dropped with a little bit of cloud cover, but it's still 117 Fahrenheit, well above where these tyres would like to be running. See William Kempf behind, licking his chops, trying to get through on the number 89 as he feels maybe the table's starting to turn in the battle between the two of them. Up at the front of our field, we've still got this 4, maybe 5 car fight, but it's just compressing and compressing. Kerfen not able to pick his way around Michael Kruder just yet, and now Tristan Maher going to join the party, going to try and find an opportunity to make some moves. Philip Scott, Alonso Carno also going to support that run through the field. Oh, and big dive to the apex there. Philip Scott, I was worried he might have missed the corner there, but got it hooked up nicely. Maybe finding some confidence late in the run to keep hold of. Looks like Zach Probst is going to be an early retirement from this race. Going to pick up 23rd place points for that finish. Can always be important to get those, even if you're not quite feeling it. Up to the front of the field, Kerfen starting to get to the bumper now of Kruger. Was to the inside there, coming out of turn number 2, but couldn't quite get it done. You see Kruger just nibbling away at that curb. Very easily unsettle the truck. Got to be careful with a move like that. And there is a little bit of a wiggle for the 42 off the corner, but it looks pretty fast still. Kerfen not able to get quite within striking distance. And we saw this on the inside line to start the race. Kerfen almost pushing Kruger through turn number 1 on the opening lap. Might try and do the same. I mean, it's a very fast track, all things considered. I think giving the bumper is a very risky concept and could end up in disaster for the both of you. But you can definitely breathe down the neck, put that pressure on. I think Alex Kerfen trying to set this move up as elegantly as possible here. Remember, 12 laps left in the opening stage. Going to be very important for those points at the top of the championship. Michael Kruger, currently leading, would extend that gap with a stage win and, of course, pick up a playoff point as well for when we get to that stage of the season. No one locked in just yet, but Kruger is probably as good a bet as any, given he's got 1 win and sits at the top of the tower. And Bailey Thompson spins on the backstretch. That is going to bring out the first caution of the night, and that is a broken truck. That is huge damage to the number 27. And I think that is going to be our second retirement of the night. What exactly happened to Bailey to cause that calamity? Let's have a look at the replay here. But that is smoking, and that might not make it back. That might be the engine giving up just there. And it looks like Thompson is going to pull it down onto the road course, in fact, and get out of the way. And here we go, he's on the outside, coming down the back straight away here. Got, I believe that's Jacob Locklear to the inside, and Locklear just doesn't quite make the corner. It's running that second groove, which I mean is entitled to it, to be fair. But Thompson very clearly not expecting a truck of that high up the racetrack from the inside line. And a huge, huge shot there. Let's have another look at that one. Yeah, it just gives up. There's so little grip left in those tires that I think at the point where things get away from you, it's so difficult to catch them. Everyone is in. Really everyone. Justin Rourke takes the lucky dog, of course. Would have had the wave either way. A couple of late entries to the pit lane are going to be around here, but this is a no-brainer point. You're at the 1/5 point of the race. You've got 5 sets of tyres. Get rid of the first one, get the second one on, and of course, give yourself something to fight with as we get towards the end of the opening stage. It'll be maybe a 5-lap run where you don't want to prioritise short-run pace, but also make sure not to give up the long-run pace as we stay green and continue on into the remainder of the action. It is Kruger with the fastest stop at the front of the field. Gets away nice and clean. Not seeing any penalties come through, so it'll come down to the choose here. And given the initial start, Kruger, I think, might go for the high side potentially as we come through. And sure enough, right up against the wall. And a lot of truck going for that, in fact. Third and fourth choosing to line up on the high side. Of course, trucks further back just going to take as much space up as possible. But it's going to be Kruger restarting from the top with Alex Kerfen down below. Maho and Chicano on the second row, and then Philip Scott and Justin Durand coming through the order. 7 laps until stage points are awarded when we get green once again. We are going to keep it rolling. You've got to balance how much you prioritize one versus the other. Although, of course, it's a very good chance that we might not make it all the way to the stage. It's something we talked about at Daytona. Just because there's no automatic stage caution, it doesn't mean that you won't get a caution at the end of the stage. With how aggressive the racing can be for those points. Pace car will pull off. Michael Kruger now in control of the field as we enter the restart zone. Going to look for a good fire off. Try and leave some of these trucks behind. But it's a great launch from Alex Kerfen. Going to be able to pressure into turn number 1. And Tristan Maher following very closely alongside her. So Giovinazzi has to adjust a little bit on the high side. He's got to try and rip the momentum. Taps the wall, a couple of the trucks doing the same. And Alex Kerfen, I think, is nose ahead here as we get into turn number 3. And Kruger's not quite on the line. And Kerfen is going to get through and is going to take the race lead from third on the grid. Great restart from the inside line. And now they try and run away with 6 laps left in the stage, but the caution is out and it's Poland. And that also looks like these engines, maybe it's the temperatures, again 30 Celsius air temp, despite the cloud cover, kind of similar to what we dealt with today over across the pond. And another smoking truck. I do not think this will end the stage. I think we're going to get a restart with a couple laps to go. But it does not seem like Poland is going to be one of the ones to take that restart. Let's have a look at exactly where it all went wrong for the number 45. This is the end of the first green flag lap, of course. The 97 gets onto the curb. Oh, and that is a really strange incident. Gets a little bit checked up by that truck on the curb. Tries to correct it, or tries to just slot back in, pointing a little bit up the racetrack, and then it just goes. On board here. Just look at the wheel on the left-hand side here. Being so gentle, but cold tyres maybe, the hot track. I really don't know the last time I've seen a wreck quite like that. Of course, we're not going to pit here. Drivers on 1 lap all tyres, not looking to give up any track position. Poland going to have to fix that up. And you know who's very thrilled about this one? It's the lucky goat himself, Justin Rohr, picking up the second of 4 laps needed to bring himself back into contention. I'd imagine Justin ruined the fact that we got rid of the guaranteed stage cautions, because he could very well use one of those. He's now he didn't pit under the last caution, in fact, so he's going to come down this time. The crew's got to get the work done quickly, and you see he's really pulling and bombing it into pit lane as the field enters turn number 3 now. He's got to get that work done quickly to get ahead of the pace car. So if you do a 3rd lap down, you're never going to win this race. See, there's the field behind. About to take the choose, I think. So gas and go, it looks like. Happy with the tyres right now. Doesn't want to use up a set, I guess. Wow, we still do a lead lap. Shano nearly eats the inside wall going for an aggressive choose 89. Jamie Wright nearly loops it. No, that wasn't the 89. That was, oh, I can't read. I think it was the 09 of William Kemp. It's difficult to see at that acute angle on the top of the truck. It was Kemp. And you have to make your intentions clear on the choose, otherwise you can be sent to the end of the line. I know a driver did get warned for that, actually, I think at Kentucky, making their debut. Because it was the first time and they did still go for a particular side, they just got a little bit of a telling off to say, you know, be careful, because we are going to be pretty strict about that. Here we go, 2 laps to go in the opening stage of action. Are we going to get a green flag run going here, or are we going to have a wreck set the field for lap number 40? Alex Kerfen in control this time on the high side. Truda back to the low side where he started this race 38 laps ago. And it's a very good launch for Kerfen. Truda now fighting to try and get alongside Tristan Maher, even with Alonso Chicano behind. And you see the swarm cut through here. I think Alex Kerfen has a very good shot at this stage win. Chicano with a big dive, and this is the point where you can start to push tyres for 2 laps. You can justify it more to give 2 laps a push and then settle back in. It can often just be the strategy on a restart anyway. To get yourself a little bit of track position, stay out of trouble from the trucks behind. Despite everything, Jamie Wright runs 8th. Really has not changed very much for the 89. Has been between 8 and 9 the whole time. Meanwhile, Cody McCorkle up 10 positions in that number 2 Menards truck. Looking for maybe one more stage point, just to hold off Philip Scott even. But crucially, end of lap number 40, they're going to be single file at the front of the field. And it is going to be Alex Kerfen who takes the opening stage of action here. It's a drag race to the line. And I think it was Philip Scott that beat William Kemp to it. Those are your opening stage results at the bottom of the screen. Kerfen, Maher, Kruger, Walls, Chicano, And then the rest of the top 10, you've got McCorkle, Scott, Wright, Kempf, and I think Randy Payne had it before Cody Goza slid through. And they are continuing to duel here as we get going into a much longer run of action. Kruder has gotten back past Tristan Maher. I can't remember if that move ever got completed. Kruder settling back into the second position where he has spent so much time today, as just gone between first and third. Like a fast-paced runner on a single. I don't know. We're at the 1/4 mark. I'm starting to go a little bit mad already. Tristan getting swallowed up here may have burnt up a little bit too much in those push laps. Michael Wall's going to cut through Chicano, also not in the strongest position here. And we have a real cluster forming for the third position right now. Oh, and that's going to be a check-up. 17 trying to slot in. Scott trying to keep the nose to the inside. Honestly, it feels like a wreck isn't far away here. I'm sure Vought hopes so. Oh, Jamie Wright sliding up the racetrack there in turn 1. Keeps it out of the side of everyone else, but that is a big hit to the wall for Randy Payne. Slaps it on the exit of turn number 2. He's immediately on the offensive again. Is not worried about any potential damage on that one. Starting slotting single file, but it's not quite done yet because Scott is right up the racetrack into Chicano's lane. And I think Scott's struggling to hold that. He's getting a little bit swarmed here. He's just slotting right between. But Corkle says, no, I'm not letting you check me up. I'm just going to go straight back to the low side. If I give you the door, maybe I will as well. And great charge for McCorkle. Just had nowhere to go with this. I think got a little bit checked up in the that most recent restart. As it happens, Scott will manage to slot in here. And I think now that we've gotten through the first stage, now we know that pit stops are going to be a ways away. We're going to do the old commentator's curse trick, potentially. And we'll see what happens when we crank it up. 50 laps of 160. Now in the books. Alex Kerfen leads the way from Michael Kruger by 0.3 of a second. And the rest of the field in a jam for third place. Walls, Chicano, and then Tristan Maher and Scott behind. I think, again, a little bit of a hard push given to finish out that opening stage. Kerfen and Kruger doing a great job holding on. And they're starting to stretch their legs with a little bit of a slower fall off. Might have stabilized for a little bit at 2 seconds here. Chicano tries to pick his way around Walls when he's so close to the rear bumper. If he's not pushing the car through the corner, you're in the mirror ruining he's about to. Isn't going to go to the inside in turn number 1. Going to wait his turn here. Try and set it up elsewhere. Similar sort of situation. These top two not wanting to fight too much. I think it's a little bit of a truce right now, maybe, just to try and manage this run. Although Chicano might have caught a piece of the wall there. He's now under threat from Tristan Maher coming out of 2 and is going to lose that position. So I think a little bit of a shot there, a little bit misjudging the throttle application in the center of turn number 2. And now going to have to try and fight this one back. Let's take a look a little bit further down the order at the rest of our fights, because it is just as frantic back there as, never mind, we don't have to get back to the race lead to see the names flick back and forth. Kruger's to the inside out of turn number 2, coming towards turn 3. So tough down the outside through here. Kruger going to defend the crossover here that Kerfen was looking for. But it doesn't mean that it's all over. Could easily fight that back, but for now, Michael Kruger looking to go back to back here. Retakes the race lead. Great work from the number 42. As Walls has a bit of breathing room now, and I think is starting to make that push forwards. Has closed in a little bit as the rest of the field starts to fade away. Let's look at those last lap times. Kruger with a great last lap, 36.0. Touch behind in the 36.3s, 36.1s for those who had a good lap. Now let's tip this over. Let's see what the best they were running was, as Tristan with an awkward run through 3 and 4 is going to lose a couple of positions. They are 2 seconds a lap away, and these tyres are barely 20 laps old. This is a very, very tricky race. Track temp 125 Fahrenheit, air temp at 30. We saw engines maybe struggling a little bit in the heat if there's any sort of shock to them. And the drivers, I think, also starting to struggle and melt in the Illinois sun. About uncharacteristic mistakes, I'd say, from some of these drivers in these stages. See Justin Durand way up the racetrack there through turn 2. Manages to hold the position at least. And getting very now Tristan Mars trying to set back up the move back for the 5th position. Fabian and Durand drag racing down towards turn number 1. Durand has to slot in, running exactly where he left off. Again, these drivers last pit. Ooh, up on the racetrack, around lap 32. You'd need to get to maybe lap 100 to make it. And 3 trucks all losing the rear end off turn number 2. Maher right, and then I think that may have been Durand as well, or potentially Cody Dozer ahead. I don't know if we made it that far down. I think we're tyre limited. I think drivers may be 2 stops to the end right now. Whether that is by virtue of a caution or whether some drivers pull the trigger early, decide to go a lap down and charge back through, we will have to see. But as Jamie Wright running really slow, the 11 Fidel Fabian spins around into the grass. But why was Jamie Wright going so slowly there? Let's have a look back at a couple of replays here. What on earth happened to the 89? Oh, and the rear end just goes and goes and goes and then catches into the grass there. Fidel Fabian loses it a little bit later, maybe expecting a bit of caution, a bit of a checkup. Slides it through. Gets it going back again. Still lead lap. Crucially, we cut back. Right, still in a duel here. Still getting his elbows out. Down 4 positions, Justin Durand down 5 as well, running 10th after starting 5th. You're really starting to see that tyre wear come into big effect. 2 seconds to fall off and incredibly difficult trucks to hold on to on the rear end. We're not too far away from lap traffic. Maybe within 10, 15 laps or so. Those trucks praying that a caution comes out and praying that it isn't them that ends up doing it. It could be Jamie Wright again, very loose, very sideways through turn number 2. Very slow off the corner as he gathers it up. Jacob Locklear not sure which lane to go for here. Ends up slotting him behind. And this is so tough. As Durand trying to fight back on Cody Dozer here, pick up another position. And I do not want to be Cody right up in the high side there. There's just no grip, it seems like, and Durand can slide up the racetrack pretty comfortably. And Randy Payne also going to try and pounce in response, get into the inside for turn number 3. This really is one of those races where, as much as track position can be important sometimes, and getting especially some clean air can be very important, you've got to trust the way the wheel feels. Just make sure you're focusing on what the truck is telling you, not overextending it, and just walking through the laps. Keep the tyres alive as long as possible to try and get you in a good run towards the end of the stint. Maybe give yourself some more strategy options. Again, if drivers are trying to one stop from that initial caution, we are going to have to go to lap 100. I don't think that's happening. If we're splitting it a little bit more evenly, we could see pit stops start to come around, I'd say lap 75 even. So we'll see if anyone pulls the trigger on that. Maybe close to 80 would be advisable. But desperate times sometimes, and obviously you can also gamble on the fact that you pit and there's a caution later down the road after the cycle completes, but before you really start to hurt in the fall off. see exactly what sort of challenges are going to fall here. And Paul Southbury is actually going to come into pit lane here. Is going to make that call. Is that scheduled or is that from some trouble? I think that might be a scheduled stop. So rolling the dice very early. Saying I need something different here. I hope this works out. Is going to be a lap down. And if you're Justin Rourke, then you are cursing right now because you really needed to be the only one in that position. Now you almost hope the race stays green a little while longer. You can't take the wave around in a situation like this. Taking the wave would be... You'd need to hope for an immediate caution. We've not really had the vibes of that aside from the end of the stage being a little bit strange. And even then, that was a sort of freak incident that I wouldn't expect to rely on again. The nature of the tyre wear and how hot the track is something that the drivers have asked for and praised when we've had conditions like this before. Scheduling it in the depths of summer, right around noon into the early afternoon, and it's a huge challenge, and it means that the race is against the track rather than the other drivers, and you start at each other's doors a little bit more. Again, the fall off does stabilize a little bit, but it stabilizes at 2+ seconds, 2.5 seconds almost. And while the lap times might stabilize, I don't think the truck ever will. I think it's gonna always be a little bit tricky, as once again Jamie Wright off turn number 2, struggling to keep the truck under control. I don't think the window is really that open for the 2-stop right now. I think a driver like Sasmi is on from over 3-stop from here, which is going to be very difficult to make work. I think that was more of a desperation call to get off that current set of tyres and try something different, as Gozer, I think, got into the wall there mid-corner. Is going to be ultra slow here through towards turn 3. Maybe just got up into the marbles and had to check it up big time. I mean, this is so tricky to deal with. Then at the front of the field, though, Michael Kruger doing a very good job gapping Kerfen now to order of 2 seconds. And that's with Kerfen gapping Walls to about 2 seconds behind as well. The front of the field is so strong in these races, so to pull a gap over the cream of the crop is truly something special. Kruger looking to consolidate that championship lead here with a very strong run. Now does have a little bit of lap traffic to deal with. First up, it'll be Troy Sand in the number 80. It looks like may get out of the way by opting for a pit stop instead. And why not gamble in that situation? It does make a lot of sense if you're already set to go a lap down. Now into towards that window where I'd be comfortable going forward to stop from here. I'd say 80 if I was in the truck. You hit 32, you had those caution laps to extend you out a little bit. I'd say put 80 as your target, and then after 75, if the truck really starts to feel like it can't do any further, then you can pull the trigger. The question, of course, is at the front of the field, who blinks first? Because with quite a tricky, awkward kind of pit road, the access road variant into turn number 3, you're gonna worry about cautions coming out during the cycle. Kruger now passing Stephen Thornton to put the 84 lap down. Next up is Aaron von Druska Tristan Maher has dropped, it looks like, from the session right now. Could reappear. Justin Durand, though, pulling into pit lane. I think one of the first of the front runners to make the call. And it is going to be lap 75 where he decides to go for that. The question now is who responds and when. How much longer do these drivers try and hold out, knowing how powerful the undercut's going to be here? Again, 2.5 seconds a lap as an estimate of how big the fall off is. That means if you run to lap 80, you could be 10 seconds up the road by the time that you make that adjustment. But of course, everyone has to pay the piper. You're always going to have that advantage later on. So how big of an offset do you want to give yourself? Who do you think your threat is? I think is the other big question in a situation like this. Are you fighting Durand or are you fighting your own race? For someone like William Kempf, it might be the answer. For someone like Michael Kruger, you just stay the course, focus on your fight with Kerfen and Walls more than anything else right here. As McCourt really struggling now. A little bit slow off the corner. And in fact, Justin Durand with Alon stopped. Did Durand speed on the way in, potentially? Going to go multiple laps down, so not something that needs to be responded to, unfortunately. Oh, and that's repairs. That is some big incident for Durand, it seems like. Let's quickly have a look at what it may have been. Fidel Fabian has responded. So let's ride on board with Durand and see if there was any contact on pit in, which is always a risk here. You can spin out the truck, you can find the attenuator, the inside wall. No, it's a smooth entry for Durand. Oh, but that wheel is not pointing in the right direction. Why did that happen to Justin? It's been a massive wall hit, and yeah, potentially day done, unfortunately. So not a scheduled stop, although they are now going to be kicking off. Fidel Fabian has taken a scheduled stop back out of pit lane 1 lap down. Scott and Chicano putting a lot of pressure on each other. Then this is the big fight. You've got this lead group between 6th and 10th. You've also got drivers like Sathmari and Fidel Fabian coming, not quite Fidel Fabian just yet, in fact, but drivers like that starting to cut through the order and really put that pressure on. This is a cluster, and you're scared to pit when there's a situation like this happening, because this could so easily bring out a caution. Cody McCorkle has made a stop, is on his way out here, and might actually rejoin very close into this fight. And is going to be just ahead of this group at least, as Michael Kruger holds a gap. But no, it's because Alex Kerfen's pulling the trigger now from 2nd on the road, pits at the end of lap number 81. You can't go to the end from here, so it is going to be a 2-stop for at least that group. Maybe some drivers can stretch the fuel, stretch the tyres for a 1-stop, as Philip Scott gets around Alonso Chicano for the 3rd position. But my question to Michael Kruger, do you pit? The answer, a resounding no, at least not this time. Although it looks like one driver who is going to pit is Alonso Chicano. Lost that position on track, decides to try and fight it back another way. And the cycle well and truly underway. How much longer can Kruger justify staying out with all that pressure behind walls? Also, still on the racetrack, Philip Scott was in the heat of battle with Alonso. He just stays out one more time. And that's going to give up the race lead for sure. It's such a huge deficit. The question is Kruder trying to go for a one-stop here? Is have to get another 20 laps on this set of tyres to make that strategy work. I just don't think in these conditions it's really viable to do something like that. I'd love to be proven wrong, to be clear. That would be just wonderful as Alonso pulls out of pit lane. You have to fight past Aaron von Druska still on the old tyres. Got to try and get this move done as quickly as possible, and von Druska gets out of the way, knows that it's not going to be a fair fight in that situation. You see Cody McCorkle, who pit 3 laps earlier, now on the back of Alonso. Kruder finally pulls it down pit lane. Philip Scott, Michael Walls still stay out here. So we'll see where Kruder cycles out. No one in this lead, in this big group here, is going to pit. Kruder, I'd say, has held out as long as reasonable. Wants to cover off the rest of the field. Doesn't want to give them a big undercut, but has to respond to the other leaders, to Chicano, to McCorkle even, to, of course, Alex Kerfen. We see Cody Dozer pull into pit lane. Jamie Wright, who was struggling so much, is committed to staying out on these tyres. Is clearly finding a little bit more confidence as the run goes on, starting to settle into that groove. Michael Kruder out of pit lane, 4 seconds behind Alex Kerfen, who pit 3 laps earlier. Has to make up all of that ground. Lando Chicano 3 seconds back. And fending off Cody McCorkle right now. So Alex Kerfen, the lead truck to have made that stop. And it'll be a while, it'll be slow pickup of pace for Michael Kruder here. We also know Kerfen was strong in a short run. It was as we got towards the long run that things were a little bit different. I think actually Walls may be considering a look down pit lane, has a bit of lap traffic ahead, but is going to fight through it. In fact, those 2 trucks are on fresher tyres, so they're not a concern. They're pulling in the opposite direction. And so, can use a little bit of clear air here at a pocket that he's got right now. Philip Scott behind in a very similar position. William Kemp not so fortunate getting around the lap truck of Aaron von Druska here. And this is the spot where I think it makes a lot of sense to pit, but I think some of these drivers might be trying to stretch it. He might be trying to get to around lap 100. Or, of course, thinking a caution is inevitable. Kerfen, Kruder, Chicano, McCorkle all back onto the lead lap now with enough of a undercut. They're flying through. They're going to have a huge advantage once these leaders stop. But, of course, what deals back? How much fresher are the tyres for these current leaders? How much further can they go in the next stint? Can they make it all the way to 160? I'd be amazed, but with how slow the trucks are running, to be fair, you're not burning as much fuel as you would normally. And so as long as the tyres don't fall off and you're happy sitting in that plateau and hoping that it doesn't fall off completely. Randy Payne bails out of it here from what was 5th position now. The gap between Kruder and Kerfen starting to close in now. 3.4 seconds. Down from about 4.2 last time by. Payne will cycle out between them, or past them, I should say, on the timing tower. And I do think at this point, if you made it to lap 90 without taking that pit stop, I think you've got eyes on 100. You've got eyes on the 1 stop. The question is simply, is it going to be worth it compared to drivers who are going to have those fresher tyres all the way to the end of the race? Kerfen already only 17 seconds off the race leader. Total pit lane transit time about 40 for a 4-tyre stop. it just seems like it might be a little bit too much to go for. But at this point, you are committed. You have a boatload of track position to bail out of it. Jamie Wright is going to pull in here. So maybe some drivers going for a, just not saying, maybe expecting a caution here. And with the speed differentials we've got here, again, trucks 2-3 seconds different from each other on differing tyres. A caution is always possible. We're well past halfway now. This is Randy Payne trying to get around Fidel Fabian on 13-lap older tyres. There's the 92 of... Did I read that number right? Jacob Locklear, who is still yet to pit, and that's why he was so 61 laps on those tyres. And you saw how easily Payne was able to slot up the inside of Fabian with just a 12-lap differential. There comes Jamie Wright on the way out of pit lane. Going to rejoin just ahead of this fight. Going to have to defend Randy Payne here, as a little bit further behind, Locklear pulls in. I believe David Durand also making the call. Michael Walls down on pit lane, your race leader, going for the pit stop here with 66 laps to go. And that's not in range of making it. Not if you are running the same economy. I think these drivers are running the tanks dry right now. They are going to have a rude awakening when they work out where they've cycled through. Philip Scott pulls in, William Kempf pulls in, and Alex Kerfen enters turn number 3. He's made a stop. He's already flying back through here, and he's going to take the race through with Michael Kruger just 2 seconds behind. So that long overcut is going to prove to be very painful for some of these drivers. They'll be able to pick back up some positions, of course, as they have the tyre advantage now, but it's just such a huge time loss to deal with, and it doesn't look like they can save a stop to get to the end and make their way back through that way. See William Kempf going to exit pit lane this time. Balls fell all the way to 5th place in that cycle. 20 seconds off Alex Kerfen. Kempf going to cycle out of pit lane in 11th. Going to have to fend off Fabian here for that position. And with that, it's just Stephen Thornton and a Justin Rohr holding on, hoping for a miracle. But he's still stuck 2 laps down, unfortunately. And our green flag pit cycle pretty much complete. So give you a picture at the front of the field with 120 miles complete out of our 200. It's Alex Kerfen who leads the way by 1.4 seconds. The gap between their tyres, 3 laps. Kerfen pit 15 laps ago, Kruger just 12. Then Chicano way down the order with Cody McCorkle behind. Then you have Walls. Walls has just pit, come out with fresh tyres, but is 18 seconds further back, has a lot of ground to make up. Then Cody Goza, Philip Scott, Jamie Wright, Paul Safnary, and Randy Payne fighting through. Just 11 trucks left on the lead lap with the different tyre strategies and calls. Durand and Locklear, I'm sure, going to try and fight their way back through the race leaders here. And just for a quick moment, we'll get rid of the intervals, and those are the tyre lives. So Safnary is in a really difficult position here. Again, maybe on a 3-stop at the current strategy. Could, of course correct, but is a little bit further down the order right now than he'd like to be with that tyre deficit in mind. It's really that there's sort of those 2 groups, and there's a little bit of a crossover between them, but I think there's the people who pit right around lap 80 and split it sort of geometrically into thirds. And then you've got the drivers who just wanted to run that little bit longer. Hope for a caution, I think, is the main idea behind that. Trap some trucks a lap down. But the race did stay green, and we are back through, as I mean, that just shows you Justin Rohr has made that pit stop. Now 3 laps down, but on fresh tyres, carving through these trucks like butter. Like a hot knife through butter. Got a battle for 6th place here. Cody Goza just got passed by Philip Scott, it looks like. Rand and Locklear are going to be fighting down into turn number 3. More importantly, for the lead of the race, Alex Kerfen under that pressure, 3 laps difference in tyres. It was about a 4-second lead that Kruger gave Kerfen with that strategy. But this is where it comes back through, inching away 10th by 10th. And Kerfen's tyres falling off just that little bit quicker than Kruger's. Of course, now the question is, where do you find the opening? Where do you pick away at a driver like Alex Kerfen to file through to the lead of the race? Past lap 100, now into the final 60 laps. All trucks expected to make one more pit stop here. Stephen Thornton's going for the 1 stop. You got to respect it. It's going to be a couple laps down because of it, though. But was a driver running towards the back? He may as well have something different. Michael Kruger going to try the inside on Alex Kerfen. Does Kerfen leave the door open? Has to leave the door open. Can't get it closed. They're going to be side by side on exit. Kerfen going to try and use the superior tyres. Has a little bit of slipstream right now from the lap truck ahead. That'll very quickly turn into a roadblock as Paul Sathmary on those 35-hole tyres gets up into the wall. As Justin Rohr slices through to try and get a lap back here. Michael Kruger survives the chaos in turn 1 and 2, and he retakes the race lead from Alex Kerfen, and now has to try and build as much of a gap as possible on those superior tyres. After I did my voice arrest, it has been a long green flag run, a lot of strategy to talk about, and you know how I love to talk about strategy. So, as Walls sets up the move on Cody McCorkle for the 2nd time tonight, we're going to give you a little bit of the track audio as we crank it up. into the final 50 laps of action here at Worldwide Technology Raceway for the Wheel 200. And the wheelman so far has been Michael Kruger, pulling out now a 2-second lead over Alex Kerfen, using that tyre advantage for all it is worth as we start to consider when some drivers might make the call for the final stop of the day. I don't think we're quite there yet. I think either another 10 laps before you start to think about it, but then maybe, as of course Safmarie is on a bit of an alternate strategy here, went for the first pit stop of the group around lap 65, I think. Comes in now lap 112, and that's a reasonable call for the position that Paul was in. I think for the rest of the field, don't get spooked. This is not your time to make the stop just yet, as William Kempf has just, I think, gotten around Cody Goza in the number 96 and has his sights set now as Fidel Fabian pulls into pit lane, does respond to the call from Safmarie. I think that's a bit early. I think just a little bit spooked there for the number 11. We shall see. William Kempf again now trying to charge down Jamie Wright, driver with just a 3-lap tyre disadvantage. So we're going to have to work a lot harder for this one. We'll see what Kempf can do in that 09 truck that has been in that mid-pack all day long, doing a great job pulling through the field. Meanwhile, about the 4th position, this is an even fight between Scott and Walls pretty much. They extended about as late as anyone. They're charging back through, but they're still 12 seconds off your race leaders, and the lap times have really started to stabilize once again. Of course, these drivers will have the advantage. They can stay out a bit longer, more feasibly than the cars ahead of them. And if a caution does come out, that could deal them back into contention. I mean, the caution would reset everyone's strategy, and we'd have a sort of 40-lap sprint to the end if it were to be right now. But having the caution after some of your rivals at pit would be just a dream scenario for Philip Scott. He's going to set the move upon Michael Walls here, try and get up into the 4th position. You see that second groove sort of towards the middle of the track where Walls is riding is just so powerful down through 1 and 2. Now, key thing for Scott, if you can hold on through 1 and 2 on that line, then turn 3 and 4 is going to be very easy indeed. They've got Paul Safmarie cutting through. He has fresh tyres. This is the run to the end of the race, we think, for the 97. So not going to be giving up any ground to the race leaders. And that's part of driving a long race with multiple strategies, multiple different green flag cycles like this. Even if a truck is 2 laps down to you, if they've got the better tyres, there's nothing to be gained from fighting them, from holding them off, from, you know, making them go for a rash move. If you have the opportunity to roll out the red carpet, then it'll really benefit you in the long run. And Safmarie is going to slot through here ahead of those two and continue on towards the rest of the race. 2.5 seconds behind Fidel Fabian, who responded to the 97's call and hit just 1 lap later. Here's that fight now between Wright and Kempf. 3-lap tyre delta. It's not nothing. It's the same delta that Kruger and Kerfen had, and we saw how powerful that was, but it does start to mellow out towards the end of the race. Old tyres are old tyres. It doesn't really matter the exact number. They're going to give you an awful lot of pain. Kemp's just going to try and pick through. Right on. I love this route cam. Tries to get on the power you see in turn 2, sees the open lane, but the truck just isn't going to respond to it. Has to cut back in now. Has a little bit of a run, has some slipstream on the 89. but they can get to the apex for turn 3 first, and that's always going to win out a little bit of a slide. But see Kemp going for the crossover, knows the apex down towards the white line is where you have to be. You can only make a difference by timing when you go there. There is the pop from William Kemp to the inside. And a big lunge in turn number 1, doing a fully clear. The question now is, can he stay stuck to the bottom? Can Wright go for a crossover move? The answer is no. Great piece of driving from Kemp, using everything left in that right front tyre to just get it stopped and turned and back through the rest of the race. I think we've got a little bit of a barbecue on pit lane. Justin Durand at the last stop parked it just before halfway, knew that it wasn't going to be any more lucky dodge to cycle through. There was too long of a green flag run to cycle cars a lap down. A real shame for the outside pole sitter, who was looking so strong in the early running until that connection issue. Going to look to bounce back. We know he has the pace to find those strong results. We'll see what he can do next time out over at Nashville. A really abrasive track, to be fair. Not much longer than this one, a mile and a third, and concrete as a notable factor of that. A fun one to watch. Kemp now closing on Cody McCourt, and that's a 15 lap difference between those two drivers. So this one should be nice and easy, nice and free, we think, for the driver 09, who has been third place late in the cycle, but started 11th. It's been running on the back half of the top 10 all the race long, and looking to get another position done and move into 6th place before we get into that window. And the final stop starts to come in for our lead lap trucks. It's not quite alongside, has to come back in for a little bit of slipstream. Has to sit behind through 3 and 4, knows that you can't really dive that corner. They can always get to the inside first. I think Randy Payne is making a pit stop to kick off that cycle from 10th place. Final truck on the lead lap will drop off the lead lap. Meanwhile, William Kemp going to cut through here. Cody McCourt on the outside. 15 lap older tyres. Can he hang it? Maybe. Not quite. Nearly had the nose alongside. Kemp has to throw a pretty decisive move back to the wall to cover that number 2 truck off, but gets it done. And now Jamie Wright sees McCourt a little bit out of rhythm, gets to the inside through turns 3 and 4. He's going to have that run down towards turn number 1 and follow through, as in fact Randy Payne did not come down the pits. Randy Payne had an incident on the racetrack. Let's have a look back at that one. Oh, and it's just that snap off turn 2. Get it locked in. Oh, beard shot to the front of the truck. That left front tyre looks awfully out of shape now. We'll go back to live pictures. See from on board. We'll tower back in just a moment, but I want to see that wheel very quickly. Oh, it looks just about straight. It doesn't look comfortable. I think may have gotten away with that one. Does fall a lap down because of it. Maybe hoping for a lucky dodge position here. As we are getting towards that pit cycle, I think the window's open for our leads. It's just a matter of not wanting to fall off the lead lap, not wanting to put yourself at risk of that final caution. But I think if you're a crew with the gap that you have, not many trucks are going to be trapping you a lap down. Curfin, Chicano, Scott, maybe Walls. But I think you've got to really try and really put your foot on the throat of this one and put it to bed. Cody McCorkle pulls the trigger for the final stop, was one of the earlier stoppers in that first cycle, so no surprises there. And I mean, I know the track conditions are part of this, but also the fact that we didn't have a caution to finish out that stage. Another couple laps green flag running out of it. And we are on our second green flag cycle of this run since we went green at the end of lap 38. These drivers put on a brilliant show, a brilliant display of strategy, of tyre conservation, the ebb and flow of a long race like this that is honestly seldom seen in modern NASCAR. And I say, give me as much of it as possible. This is fantastic from the entire field to keep us green for what is now 90 laps. I realise that making this conversation is tempting fate a lot, and could end up getting that caution that brings everything on its head again. Even if that does happen, it's still been a great green flag run. A second cycle underway. And I think if you are one of the leaders and you're scared of pitting to put yourself in the danger zone, I think that's part of how you have to view it. You have to think of it as the fact that it's been this long. Everyone's so spread out. There's the pockets, of course, but a lot of them are on tyre deltas and letting each other work on their own strategy here. You see as Kerfen under pressure from Paul Sathmarie, who is on those fresher tyres. It's just have to let them through. And I think that is what can justify making that stop as Randy Payne pulls down into pit lane. Cody McCorkle goes up also having made their final stops here. How much longer do the leaders stay out? How much do they fear the risk of that caution? I guess if you're Truda, you've got enough of a gap here where you can afford to respond. So maybe it comes down to the hands of Alex Kerfen or Alonso Chicano, lap 129. Or, no, it's the end of 130 for Chicano. We'll peel down pit lane. Aggressive gets down to 45 miles an hour. And we are rolling on pit lane. William Kempf behind does the same. Well, actually did that one lap earlier, I should say. Ruder stays out. Philip Scott, what's his response? They were running so close together. Does he stay out a little bit longer to give himself the tyre advantage? Knowing that he's going to be a few seconds up the road at this rate. As, whoa, that is Randy Payne on fresh tyres, misjudging the closing speed a little bit, but doing a great job to not run over Philip Scott, who I think is really struggling, maybe distracted in the mirrors by Randy Payne's brave moves there. Alex Kerfen has pulled the trigger, is into pit lane, is going to make that final stop. And there it is, Michael Truda instantly responds, was waiting to see what the rest of the lead group would do, but it had to be now. Philip Scott does the same. Walls is going to stay out a little bit longer and inherit the race lead, but I think Michael Truda especially is going to stay lead lap here. And I think that's the crucial call to be made. Kerfen coming out of pit lane now, down in the 5th position. It's truly remarkable just how much of a gap these drivers managed to pull in the time they've had available to them. Philip Scott is now into pit lane. Michael Truda on the way out. Currently running 3rd. Scott behind, of course, not able to put the pressure on, but Alex Kerfen going to be entering turn 1 now, going to be flying through, trying to push as much as possible out of those tyres. Is it enough? No, you can see quite brightly that purple truck of Michael Truda, seconds up the road still, so covering off, knowing that the gap was going to be a little bit too much to handle. Walls and Wright staying out for the time being, as Cody Goza goes to unlap himself here on those fresh tyres. And once you're the leader and you've got these trucks on different tyres, they are not going to give you anything because they want to be ahead immediately in case a caution does come out. They are at risk the entire time they're sat behind you. They are not going to be very patient for very long. So Walls could get a little bit checked up by that grouping. The gap between Kruder and Kerfen, just 2.6 seconds. And the delta's just one lap of tyres. We've seen how strong Kruder is in the long run. This is a much shorter run to the checker here, with how they've split the stints up. So is this where Kerfen can start to face a charge? Walls still staying out, lap 136, 25 laps to go, I should say. Walls on 42 lap old tyres. Jamie Wright 44 laps old behind. And Kruder is taking chunks out of this group. Let's just have a quick look at that battle for second place. 36.5 for Jamie Wright, 34.4 for Michael Kruder. Kerfen's going that little bit faster. Kerfen, I believe, holds the fastest lap of the race with a 34.1. So not too much surprise in that one. But you can see just how quick the closing speed is between these drivers. The question is just, can Kerfen keep taking those chunks away? Kerfen went purple. Kruder's going to slot around Justin Rohr. Justin Rohr? It was Justin Durand who was in pit lane. I've got my driver's minute. So Justin Rohr, who again had that disconnection, is all the way back into 16th place, which I know isn't what he wanted out of this race, but incredible considering he was 4 laps down at one point and started this last run with 2 laps down and not the best tyres. Currently sits 2 laps down, and so it's probably wondering where he would have cycled out without this. I say a top 5 almost certainly. But this is the crucial fight. This is the battle for the net race lead. Michael Kruder about to catch up to Jamie Wright within the next lap or so. Again, looking forward, 1.6 is going to have him by turn 4. As Wright is all over the place in 1 and 2. Kruder just finding that bite much more effectively. The 80 gets out of the way. He's going to make the pit stop this time by, I think that's Troy Sand, just trying to get a little bit of experience. And right ahead for second place, Jamie Wright. And it is night and day. It's a multi-class experience between the Chevrolet and the Toyota, just purely based on a 41 lap difference in tyre life. Can Kruder get it done in turn 1 here, or is Wright going to defend the inside? Wright's going to defend it. Wright's going to slide. Kruder's going to get back to the inside. And almost calamity. Could have been catching up the race leader, but instead very expertly managed for Michael Kruder to slot right underneath. Wright says enough's enough. That was a little bit too close even for me. 20 laps to go in the race. And making that final stop, Walls still stays out. Kruder only 1.7 seconds ahead of Alex Kerfen. But does have the tyre advantage. And has had the long run advantage, crucially. So just needs to keep that number 30 truck at arm's reach to head all the way down to the checkered flag. And Walls expected to pit very shortly indeed. Isn't really the truck we're talking about in this fight. Jamie Wright still on pit lane. Gonna go a lap down here. It's just getting rolling as Kruder flies through into turn number 1. So those long run gambles not particularly paying off, although of course Jamie Wright has been just running fringe of the top 10 the whole race. It's more a driver like Walls who had the pace early on to really challenge these guys. Just expecting a caution that never came, I think, and putting themselves back up way against the wall. This is the battle for the race lead. It's not going to last very long. Walls has nothing left to fight with on those 49 lap old tyres. And a dive into turn number 1 for Michael Kruder. This question now, how quickly will Alex Kerfen get around Walls? Will Walls pit this time, knowing that the lead has been given up? But also, does he have the tyre life left in after pushing for those fastest laps to open the stint? Push to close the gap. Does he have anything left to make contact and to try and attempt a pass? Scott, 2 laps pressure on Kerfen. Gets forced down a little bit onto the rumble strips there with, that is the 75 of Randy Payne on the outside. All on similar tyres, but Payne in the lap truck not wanting to get involved too much in this fight. This is for 3rd place on the road, in fact, with Walls expected to pit before too long. So this is for the final spot on the podium. Chicano versus Scott. Scott, 2 laps pressure on tyres, 13 laps versus 11. That's not a big margin right now. As Walls really starts to fall away, Kruger really putting that gap back on. Look at the difference in lap times. Just last time by as Kerfen, I think, navigated the lap traffic of Walls, as well as no, it's actually about to have Jamie Wright breathing down the neck as well to get back onto the lead lap. And the gap's just expanded by half a second. 34.8 plays 35.3. And with 15 laps to go, and with Jamie Wright running his own race, not wanting to give anything up here, the steam might have run out in the fan for Alex Kerfen, and Kruger is going to start to pull away once again. We are side by side for net 3rd place here. Scott to the inside, Chicano to the outside, Justin Raw ahead of them. I think needs a pit stop still. Might try and survive this one, but it's going to be very slow into turn number 3. They need to follow in the same groove here. Scott needs to slot in behind. Yeah, does for a big dive, trying to pressure on Alonso. But it's just not going to have anything done. A 3-way fight a little bit further back for 6th place. Again, net P5, Cody McCorkle, William Kemp, Cody Goza, all within 3 laps on tyre life themselves. Those are your final trips on the lead lap currently until Wright cuts past Michael Kruger. So action in these pockets, and this is what I love about these long runs where people take tyres at different times. The field spreads out so aggressively, and then as the race comes to an end, everyone was building towards lap 160, calculating to be in the right place at that moment, and everyone falls right back on top of each other once again. We've been green for a long time. It's no guarantee that we will see the race finish this way. We could get a caution because these are intense battles for very important positions. And sometimes there can be quite big deltas navigating them, but not what we have right now. McCorkle, Kempf, Goza. Kempf looking for the move on Cody McCorkle. Chicano still fending off Philip Scott 10 seconds up the road as they cut through a little bit of traffic. They're now catching up to Walls, in fact. So that is going to be an interesting fight. Wright has shuffled back onto the lead lap now. It'll be David Durand in the lucky dog position. And this is the fight for, well, 3rd place now, because Walls might be trying to make it happen. It'll be 67 laps, I think, to the end of the race here. Has there been a little bit of fuel saving? Can we listen in on board the number 7? I am going to stop talking for a little bit and let's listen in. It is a lot of lift and coast. I don't hear any clutch coasting just yet, but it is a lot of lift and coast. I think Walls is going to try and make it from here, make that one stop work. I mean, you know, if you pit, you end up basically where Jamie Wright is. I mean, even worse, now that you've stayed out so long, you're going to be close to 2 laps down with a late pit stop. You hope for a caution, or you hope that the fuel tank has just enough to get you through to the end of the race. Chicano did get through into 3rd there. Scott into 4th, went for a little bit of a lunge to see if he could get a move on Chicano through the traffic, but it wasn't to be, and that gap started to open up a little bit more. Kemp still working on Cody McCorkle. Cody Gozer in the wings, hoping for a little bit of chaos between the two of these guys. And then crucially at the front of the field, keeping an update on that lead battle. It's expanded out to 3.2 seconds last time by. Kruger so good on the long run here today, and showing that once again, looking to close this out with some strong laps at the end of the final stint. Of course, a little bit of traffic played a bit of factor there. Who was that alongside? That was with Aaron Bondruska, I think. It's only a couple of tenths of a second lost ultimately. Hemp still looking for the crucial move into what we think could be a top 5, but it depends whether Walls has to pit and how far back into the field he's going to fall at this point. He's only about a second off the pace of these drivers, and so would make contact at pretty much the final lap of the race. But it's all a question of whether the fuel can hold out, whether we can get to the end without a tyre blowing even. We've always got to worry about that sort of thing when temperatures are as hot as they are. It has dropped a little bit down to 108 Fahrenheit now, so a little bit of a respite towards the very, very end of the race. But a lot of the damage has been done already. David Durand 1 lap down. Also, I think trying to stretch this to the end of the race is not going to trouble our battle for 3rd place. Philip Scott way down into the rumble strips. Again, trying to stay out of the way of the lap truck. A little bit loose on exit as a result. Is Walls clutch toasting yet? Yes! You hear that beautiful silence? Walls is into desperation territory with 5 laps to go. Slamming down that left foot onto the clutch the moment he gets towards the corner. And there behind, charging through 6 seconds back, is the fight for 6th place. They might not be able to get there, but it depends whether Walls runs out on the way to the checkered flag. I mean, what a race this has been. A true credit to the field all the way from the beginning of this one. 2 cautions, both during the first stage. We have been green ever since. And now with 3 laps to go, with Walls going for a fuel save to hold on to that set of Goodyears to the checkered flag. With Chicano and Scott dueling for the final step of the podium, with McCorkle and Kemp trying to settle 6th place for themselves and trying to chase down Walls as well. Credit has to go to Michael Kruger. Won last week here. Not last week, sorry, last round at Kentucky on a little bit of a strategy call. So great work there, and has just taken the advantage of that all the way. Started from pole position, never fell as low as 10th position, but pit late enough to cover off any threats, early enough to not put yourself under too much danger. He hadn't taken a win since Oschersleben in 2024, an oval win since New Hampshire more than a year ago. we hit the white flag here, it looks like it is going to be 2 races in as many rounds for the number 42. And this was a fan favourite last time. How long are we going to be before the field starts to turn and go, oh, he's a threat for the title? For right now, it's bat-to-bat for Michael Truder, who wins at Gateway. Still racing here on the final lap behind as well. Kempf still can't find the way around McCorkle. Walls just 2 seconds up the road here. Chicano is going to fend off Scott for the final step of the podium. And Walls is out. Walls is out. He's going to have to crawl to the line as McCorkle holds on for 5th place. Walls is going to fall behind David Durand. Justin Rohr is going to help out a friend who was going to get there anyway. But Walls is going to be the final truck on the lead lap, ultimately in the 9th position. But most importantly, celebrations once again for Michael Truder, your race winner here in the Wheel 200. And as Truder goes for a bit of a Polish victory lap, let's have a look at the final running order from a fantastic race here tonight at Gateway. It is Michael Truder by 4 seconds in the end. A perfect stretch call, perfect tyre save, holding on for a 2nd consecutive race win. Alex Kerfen will come home 2nd best tonight ahead of Alonso Chicano, who had a great fight going with Philip Scott all the way to the checkered flag. And then Cody McCorkle fighting with William Kempf, fending off that driver. And then Cody Goza looking to pick up the pieces, picked up 1 a little bit further back. Jamie Wright pit late after extending a long way. Ends up finishing just a couple seconds ahead of Michael Walls, who tried to extend, finish out on the 1 stop, managed it, but with fumes left in the truck, coasts over the line to take home the final spot on the lead lap in P9. David Durand will round out your top 10 1 lap down alongside Randy Payne, Jacob Locklear and Fidel Fabian. Paul Safnary hit very early and ends up bringing it home for a P14 result once all was said and done. And then Justin Rohr, what could have been for the number 76 without that mechanical issue in the early running, still holds on to finish 2 laps down after taking the final restart 2 laps down as well. Stephen Thornton, Aaron Von Drooster both 3 down. Troy Sand, your final finisher, 4 laps down ahead of Justin Durand. Tristan Maher falling just before halfway. Levi Poland getting caught up for the 2nd caution. Bailey Thompson in the 1st. And then Zach Probst, your final DNF for today's race. It looks like we're just trying to find a victory lane here. Not sure if we've got one. So that's not the pit bots. The bots for Truder was at the front of the field. Finally brings it back around. And hopefully we'll grace our presence for the 2nd consecutive race in just a moment's time. Right back in just a moment with the driver interviews on the podium. All right, we are gonna go from third up to first this time. Truda still in post-race celebrations with the team, and who can blame him? We are gonna drag in for our third place finisher today, Alonso. What a battle that was! What a run that was, all the way from lap 38. Talk us through how you approach a tire save race like that, and when exactly you make the calls to pit.
Well, I didn't think I had the raw speed to actually be able to contend with Mikey and Alex all night. So I was just really focused on just making sure I wasn't killing my tires, and I was just happy to contend for a top 10, to be honest, because practice was really rough for the race. I wasn't really sure what kind of pace I would have, so I was happy just riding for a while, and figured out during first stage that I actually had pretty decent long run pace, so was able to keep it in the top 5 contention all night.
Yeah, it was a great run, and I am curious, what sort of numbers were those tires hitting at the end of the stint? Because it was a hot race. It's a very difficult track to run. Exactly how close to the limit were you running those things?
I don't really know for the last run. I mean, I'm sure they probably got down well into like the 50s or so, but um, already by the time we got to the stage, I mean, some people's tires were in the mid 70s. I was doing a pretty good job conserving mine, so I still had my tires in the low to mid 80s. But throughout that long last run there, I'm sure it got down pretty far down. But yeah, this it was especially tough coming off of two, especially with the shifting, just managing your RPMs and not spinning your tires. Turn two was by far the toughest night. Actually, this race kind of almost like feels kind of like a road course to me in a way, just because of the shifting and just how flat these turns are, and the fact that both turns are so different from each other. It almost kind of runs similarly to a road course, in my opinion. So you just really have to find your rhythm, and that was the toughest part for me in the beginning. During practice, was just finding a right rhythm, because it's such an odd track overall. So um, thankfully, I was throughout the run was able to find a comfortable pace.
Yeah, it was a great run and a great fight towards the end as well with Philip Scott. You held on for the final spot on the podium, and I know it means a lot for you and the rest of the team. Is there anything you want to say to the fans at home, to anyone else in that stable? Let us know. Congratulations on a great podium finish.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a great run with Philip. Shout out to him. It was really fun battling him all race long. And shout out to Mikey for winning. He's my driver. Races for me and Chicano Motorsports with PBR. So congrats on another win for Mikey. Well deserved. It sucks that Tristan had to disconnect, and I know he really wanted to battle for the win. And also shout out to Alex and the rest of the Radius guys. Shout out to C2 Graphics and Grid Network, of course. We have a new paint scheme here tonight on the truck, so it's nice to show off their new colors here for Grid Network. And like to thank all my other sponsors: Celsius, Habaneros, Mexican Grill, Mardon PC, and everyone else at Radius and CHM and JCTV as well. Like to also thank my girlfriend for always watching. She's my number one fan. So, but yeah, thank you, Olivia, for broadcasting and letting us show everybody, all our friends and family, what we do.
Yeah, you put on a great show tonight. Congratulations, and go celebrate with the rest of the team.
Thank you. Have a good night.
And I say celebrate with the rest of the team, but I'm going to steal a couple more of them before we are done. First of all, Alex Kerfen, second place in tonight's action. Talk us through the strategy calls there, and I mean, just how tricky this track was to run in these conditions with all of the difficulties going on right here.
Yeah, from racing a super speedway to taking a couple week break to racing this track, it was a shell shock to say the least. It was like you're driving on glass this entire race. It was very hard to keep the truck under you, and especially on the exits, you couldn't get full throttle until you were pointing straight. And I was using up the tires pretty hard in the long runs, and I knew that Michael was saving them a bit better than I was, and if I had any chance, it was going to be to undercut him, try to get in front of him, and then give him the dirty air, try to get him to use his stuff up. But first time around, he was able to get back past me, but second time around, he was privy to my undercut and put a stop to that the next lap. So, I mean, I'm very satisfied with the way I ran, though, because I did not have even a top 5 on my bingo card. I felt like I was going to be struggling in the mid-pack, but was able to get a good qualifying lap down and keep it out front for the whole race. So pretty satisfied. It still feels like a win to me.
Yeah, and I mean, let's talk about it. Of course, weren't there for the last race at Kentucky, and so got an average finish so far this season of 1.5. You've got the team taking home all 3 wins so far this season. What sort of confidence does that give you heading through towards the rest of the regular season and into the playoffs?
Yeah, it's a big confidence boost for our camp. We're having a lot of fun right now, and feels like you said, any week we show up, we can win the race, and yeah, it's a really positive environment right now over in our camp, and hope to keep it going the rest of the season, get most, if not all of us, into the playoffs, and keep the full head of steam going.
Sounds like a fantastic plan. Well, we'll let you start getting prepped for next week already, but if there's anything you want to say to the fans at home, anything you want to add, just congratulations on a fantastic podium finish.
Yeah, always like to thank my friends and family for watching the race, give us some support on the broadcast, boost them numbers, and they also like watching it. I'd like to thank all my sponsors like Grid Network, Kerfans Market, Corewell Health, C2 Graphics. Thank my entire team, always being great teammates, racing respectfully around each other, and thanks to Cam for running the team, running the league. Thanks to you guys for broadcasting. Too many people to thank, but you all know who you are.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, have a good one.
And just one more driver to talk to. And in the very same camera shot, man of the moment, man of the season so far, Michael Kruger. Second race win in a row, and after the drought that you had, it's a little bit like London buses, isn't it?
It's just spectacular, really. I mean, truly spectacular. Finally, just railing off wins like this so far.
Yeah, it seemed like your London pace was just unbeatable today. So, how do you play that when you know you're pulling away towards the end of a run, but of course, a caution at any point during the cycle could completely spell disaster for your races it's going.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I was sweating bullets basically the whole time whenever I came down pin, all the way to the last run. I never felt safe one bit until I knew that I was gonna get that white. I knew it was I mean, every time I'd come down pit road, and I was hoping that when I got lap or lost a lot of track position from the cycle, I was really hoping we wouldn't get a yellow. And I mean, I knew pace-wise, we were terrific all night. It was just a matter of just making sure we didn't have yellows far away. And we were fortunate this played out really, really long there with how everything panned out.
Yeah, 122 laps in that final run to the checker across your whole race. 101 laps led out of the 160. A truly dominant performance, and it all came through that long run pace. Tell us, what's the secret to keeping those tires alive at a track like this?
Well, I mean, honestly, initially on the first run, I got way too overzealous. Apologies to Justin Rott. I drove just over my head and just completely pushed it. I mean, I really, honestly, just looking back, I feel kind of bad how I raced him there. Unfortunately, with his Ethernet going out or his internet issues, but from that, I kind of learned that I just really pushed my stuff because Alex and Tristan were all crawling all over me, and I got honestly saved by a caution there. And that kind of really kind of set me, like, really just kind of put me in a motion to go, all right, I gotta just not do what I'm doing on that run and just take it a lot more easier because I got overzealous and I just tried to get greedy and think that clean air is everything. It's almost hard to pass here. And I just had to take a step back and go, just be conservative and just run your pace to a good standard. And when we clicked off after the stage, I mean, I just really just took that to note and played the patient game and just tried to make sure I'd be right there to capitalize on Alex for his little small mistakes. I mean, there weren't too many he made. He was great, but just any of his small slip-ups, I could jeopardize his tires. I was always trying to just kind of keep note that he's hurting his stuff, and if I can just prevent myself from making less mistakes and just being backed up and just be a little conservative and not get overzealous like I did in the first run, I can really just put on some tremendous pace. And I got to Alex, past him, and from there on, I just had to constantly be patient with myself. It almost felt like I had to race like Dover a little bit with how patient you had to be to an extent. I mean, of course, there are two different tracks, Gateway and Dover, but I just felt like I kind of had to pace myself like it's like a Dover, how strung out everything got tonight with the long runs and everything there, and just trying not to stay out too long and lose too much time to Alex there at the end or to my competitors, really.
It's not the weirdest comparison we've had. Alonso did travel more like a road course than anything else, so Dover feels basically identical in that regard. Drivers were talking before the race, of course, about the longer format with the sort of the longer lap times here, and of course it clearly paid off. You learned from that first run, made the adjustments, and from there it was smooth sailing all the way to the end. Congratulations on the race win, your second in a row. If there's anything you want to say to the fans at home, to anyone else on the team, and I mean, what's your call for the rest of the season? You think you can take it all the way?
I mean, I hope so. It just really, some of it hinges on my work schedule and everything. I mean, I think we can contend, but I just feel like there's a little bit of chance, a little bit with my work schedule, and if I'll be missing any races or such down the pipeline. But if we can make the playoffs somehow, and I can somehow advance through the playoffs, with my work setbacks, I think I might be able to have a shot at this. But there's just those obstacles I think that will be in my way. But we'll see how things go here from here on out.
And I told you to, I gave you the floor and asked you a question, so I'll give you the floor again. Anything you want to say to the fans at home?
Oh, gosh,
That's
silly me. Yeah, no, you're good. I just want to shout out to my mom and dad for being my biggest supporters and supporting me and being there for me to watch my races. And I want to thank all my teammates at CHM, Alonso, Tristan, Cody, and Zach Probst, along with Josh Copernol as well. Shout out to him. And another one to Cam for putting my paint scheme together. He was watching on, and thanks for putting my paint scheme together so I could have something for this season. Thanks to him, and also shout out to you for just trying to solo this tonight all by yourself and toughing this out without a co-commentator. Thanks for what you did, Olivia, tonight for covering this race.
It was my pleasure. You put on a fantastic show, so congratulations. Start the celebrations, and we'll see you next week over at Nashville.
Well, I'll see you then. Thank you so much.
And that will do it for tonight's action from the Worldwide Technology Raceway, Gateway Motorsports Park, just outside St. Louis in Madison, Illinois. This has been the Wheel 200. As I mentioned, next time out, Josh, I think, will be rejoining us for the broadcast over at Nashville Superspeedway. Very interesting next few races. Nashville, Portland, and then Eldora. You're not going to want to miss anything. Same time every Saturday night here on JCTV. We'll see you next time out over at Nashville.